Sebastian Kane, a brilliant scientist despite his young age, is trying to find a solution to the problem, getting into his brain no worse than the invisible primate that killed the rat. It was he who, with the help of his team, made the gorilla invisible, and now he has to return it to its usual appearance. But any simulations, experiments done on the computer suggest his idea is not viable. Sebastian is distracted. On the other side of the street in the window showed the silhouette of a girl. She has come home from work, tired and ready to go for a shower. The stranger takes off her blouse and prepares to remove her bra, but before doing so, she draws the curtains. This scene gives Sebastian an idea. He goes back to the computer, builds a new sequence, and the program reports that it is working. Dr. Payne calls ex-girlfriend and colleague Linda McKay via video link. Linda is already asleep but answers the call. Kane informs her that he has had success and wants to test the new formula right away. He summons everyone to the lab. Linda promises to come, turns off the video link and goes to her bed, where Matthew Kensington, another project participant, a scientist and Linda's new lover, is waiting for her. True, no one knows about their relationship yet. The whole team gathers in the underground laboratory. Matthew goes to give an injection to an invisible gorilla, taking thermal imaging glasses to see it. The gorilla has become aggressive and unpredictable because of its long stay in this state. It hurts Matthew, avoiding him. Dr. Payne comes to the rescue in time. The two of them catch the primate, injecting her with a tranquilizer from a special gun. They are preparing for the epochal return of the gorilla's visibility. A specially prepared drug is administered. Dr. Payne takes the honor, and the primate begins to emerge. First the circulatory system, then the bones, muscles, nerves, and everything else. The gorilla growls in pain, frantic, bound to the bunk. Her heart rate increases, and her medical indicators approach the critical mark. She dies right in front of a group of scientists, but they do everything they can to bring her back to life. They succeed. The gorilla comes back to life and becomes visible. The whole team rejoices. They are ready to celebrate such an event. Colleagues gather at a restaurant. Lavish toasts are made, and laughter erupts. At one point, Kane disappears, retreating to the balcony to be alone. He is found by Linda, and to her he confesses that he does not want the experiment to end. He wants to reach new heights. The party's over. Kane, Linda, Matthew, and Matthew Kensington go to a special meeting with the military. Sebastian Kane makes a report. He tells them that they have managed to make some primates invisible, but they have not been able to get their visibility back. Linda and Matthew try to object, but Kane won't let them. The military, on the other hand, threatens to cut off funding if Kane and his team don't get results soon. Leaving the meeting, Sebastian tells his colleagues about his plan. He believes that if he reports the results to them, the military will immediately take the research away from them. If they manage to conduct human trials, they will go down in the history of science forever, perhaps even winning a Nobel Prize. Linda and Matthew agree to keep silent. They do not tell the rest of the scientific group. They only say that the military gave permission to test the drug on humans. Kane himself is invited to be the test subject. Sebastian goes to the experiment in high spirits. He does not allow anyone to inject himself with the drug, so that later they will not have to bear responsibility if something goes wrong. He is tied to a special bed. The process of transformation begins, and at some point Kane begins to disappear. All this is accompanied by terrible pain and agony. However, Kane's body withstands the strain. He slept for 17 hours and finally came to his senses. When he was visited by Linda and Matthew, he feels strange. The light hits his eyes, because his eyelids have also become invisible. The thermal imaging camera was installed in Kane's room to keep an eye on his colleague. He was left here for observation, while the others went home. Sarah Kennedy also stayed behind. It was her turn to be on lab duty. She dozed off at her post. While she was asleep, Kane crept up to her, unbuttoned her blouse, and touched her breasts. Sarah jumped up in a panic, not realizing what had happened. By the time she realized she had to check on Kane's whereabouts, he had already gone back to bed. Sarah had time to notice him lay back down. In the morning, she herself was not sure she hadn't dreamed the night's incident. Sarah told her coworkers everything, and she also said that when she questioned Kane, he said that he had only left the room to get coffee. The incident was put to rest, but all the team members began to turn paranoid. They couldn't feel safe anymore. They carried thermal goggles everywhere. One evening, Sebastian spotted Linda at work when no one else was in the lab. He tried to seduce her, but it didn't work. Finally, the day came for Kane's visibility to return. He was placed back in his bunk, strapped down, and injected with another drug that could restore his appearance. However, something didn't go according to plan. The drug didn't work the way it was supposed to. Instead, it almost sent Sebastian to the grave. He was barely saved, but Kane remained invisible. To do something to help his colleague, the team created a special mixture. They smeared it on Kane's head and shoulders and let it harden. It turned out to be a kind of mask in which Sebastian could move around and see his reflection in the mirror. Matthew and the rest of the team worked tirelessly to find a solution to the problem. Multiple experiments were conducted on Kane, but they did not produce the desired results. Sebastian had spent more time in the invisible state than any of the other test animals. Another night on duty left Carter. Unable to stay in his room any longer, Kane informed him that he wanted to leave the lab, take a walk around the city. Carter couldn't stop him, and so he called Linda to report the problem. She and Matthew set out to find their coworker. Linda went to Sebastian's apartment, but found only his clothes and mask there. When Kane arrived home, he saw the stranger again in the windows across the street. She had just come home from work and was preparing to take a shower. Sebastian couldn't contain his desire, and so he went to the girl's house. He rang the doorbell, and when the neighbor came out to see who had come, he slipped into the apartment. After waiting for the girl to get out of the shower and start grooming herself, Kane threw her on the bed. When he finished, he saw Linda walking around his apartment. He stealthily returned home just as Linda was about to leave. All the team members were gathered in the lab. They were preparing heat-sensitive goggles and tranquilizer guns to find Sedate and return the invisible colleague to his room. However, no search operation was needed. Kane returned on his own, reporting that he just wanted to unwind. Linda was annoyed by Sebastian's behavior. She threatened him that if he left again without asking, she would have to tell the military that they had conducted an illegal human experiment. At this point, all the team members learned that their sponsors had not authorized Kane's transformation into an invisible man. That same night, Linda had a dream of someone invisible undressing her and trying to make love to her. The next day, Matthew shared his joy. He seemed to have succeeded in fixing the drug problem, but computer modeling showed that the formula he had invented did not work. This failure made Kane even angrier. When the scientists left the lab, Sebastian decided to take action. He doesn't intend to stay locked up any longer, but he doesn't want to ask permission to go out into the city every time. He switched the circuit board in his cell, putting in a cyclic recording of him sleeping, and went into town. Kane decided to visit Linda at her apartment. As he climbed up the fire escape to her house, he saw Linda with Matthew, which made him freak out and break the glass. Startled, Linda immediately called the lab, but Frank Chase, who was on duty there, confirmed that Sebastian was asleep in his bed. Kane replied to all questions that he didn't know anything and had slept in bed all night. The coworkers checked the camera footage and made sure Sebastian wasn't lying. That evening, Linda checked the paperwork in her apartment. She was startled by a sudden draft, arousing suspicion. She rushed to the lab to make sure Kane was there, but she didn't find him in bed. Linda guessed that he had done something to the camera. She quickly located the replaced circuit board, summoned the scientists, and told them of her decision. Linda will reveal all the cards to lab manager Howard Kramer, who negotiated the funding with the military. Kane hears all of this while being invisible. Linda and Matthew go to Kramer and tell him everything. Sebastian is watching. When the couple leaves, he kills Kramer by luring him into the pool. This one doesn't have time to tell the military about the illegal experiment. In the morning, Linda tries to call Howard, but is informed that he drowned last night. She tries to call the military from the lab, but the phone stops working. She can't leave either. The elevator is blocked. Frank Chase finds out that Kane deleted the access codes of the entire team from the computer system, and now they are locked inside the lab. Kane himself escapes from his room. The scientists arm themselves with thermal imaging cameras and tranquilizer guns. They intend to find Sebastian and neutralize him. Dr. Payne proves to be more farsighted. He has already started hunting his colleagues. He kills Janice first. Having found her corpse, they send Matthew and Carter to search for her and follow their movements through the computer. Hiding on a ventilation pipe, Kane seriously wounds Carter and confronts Matthew. After a brief struggle, Sebastian knocks his opponent out. At the last moment, Matthew manages to save Linda by dragging her through the opening of a closing door. Sarah and Frank arrive to help Carter, finding the body barely alive. Sarah leaves her colleague and runs off to get blood to make a transfusion. Kane catches up with the girl in the cold room and kills her. Matthew and Linda find Frank at Carter's body, taking him away to rescue Sarah. However, Kane is waiting for them. He kills Frank, wounds Matthew, and locks him and Linda in the refrigerators, setting the thermometer to maximum cold. While Sebastian prepares explosives to destroy the lab, Matthew passes out and Linda finds a way to get out of the refrigerator. She pulls Matthew out and sets out to take down Kane herself. She almost succeeds, but at the last moment Sebastian gets the upper hand. The girl is saved by Matthew, who has regained consciousness. Having immobilized Kane, they realize that the laboratory is about to explode and run to the elevator. There is an emergency staircase in the shaft that they are going to use to get out. The explosives blow everything to pieces, but Kane survives. He catches up with Linda in the elevator shaft, throwing her down, but the girl manages to wriggle out. Together with Matthew, they defeated the mad scientist, throwing him into the epicenter of the explosion. They made it out unharmed. This is the end of the movie. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and give it a like if it was interesting.